Welcome back to From the Clubhouse. Tonight we're very pleased to have in studio guest CEO of the Western Province Cricket Association, Professor Odendaal. Prof, good to see you again.
Thanks very much.
Good to have you in studio. Just a quick question. I mean, I know the focus for tonight is women's cricket, but let's start with the Cobras. Firstly, their new signing, Sunil Narine. Very excited about that?
The first guy to get 50 T20 wickets in a year, IPL player of the series, took 4 for 9 in Champions League, so he's very special, and Paul wanted him specifically, so we're excited about that.
Prof, tonight, as I said at the outset, the focus is on women's cricket, both in the province, and then possibly we'll appoint ourselves national experts, but we'll have a look slightly further afield. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, just think of a television program on women's cricket, flighted in Cape Town to 1 million people. That's fantastic. When I started here as CEO, I mean, we were in the 21st century already, but the way that people giggled, laughed, and mocked the idea of women playing cricket was silly, really. And since then, we've seen cricket for women coming into the mainstream. So 2003, cricket came into the ICC, and the whole structural integration of women into mainstream cricket started there, and I think we're starting to see the impacts. In the 21st century, it's beautiful to see our young cricketers playing well, and it's always this notion of cricket as a gentleman's game was really fuddy-duddy and based on Victorian notions where women should be in the kitchen and they mustn't sweat and all that kind of thing. And it's interesting that women's cricket has advanced in big steps with the advent of political rights. So in World War I, you had all the men going to fight and die in France in the mud, and then women had to work in the factories and to support the war effort. And after the war, they said, we want the vote. So that movement for women's votes was finally accepted. 1919 or 1920, women get the vote. 1926, the Women's Cricket Association gets formed, the first international cricket body. And then Australia followed. South Africa had the Peninsula Women's Ladies Cricket Team, who joined the WPCA, because there wasn't a national association yet in South Africa. So that was the first province team for women in 1932. Already, at schools like Rustenburg and Wynberg, they got PT teachers from Scotland and England who started these new ideas. And so in 1908, Wynberg played Rustenburg, for instance, in cricket. We've got photos of it. But it was only in the 1950s that the first South African cricket women, it was called South Africa and Rhodesia Women's Cricket Association, was formed in 1952. And they hoped to play against Australia and England, but it only happened in 1960, the first international women's tour. And we had a match here at Newlands, and Maureen Payne was a left-arm spinner who did fantastically against the English. I think she took 9 or 10 wickets in one game, either for Western Province or in the test match. And then, of course, but that was for whites only, just like the old apartheid establishment. And then in the 70s, there was also the Unicorns tours, which were like the Rebel tours, and the Derek Robbins tours and the International Wanderers tours, where conservative friends of the whites only bodies brought out private tours. So then we get to 1994, and women's rights are basically consolidated in the new constitution, and that's why we see so many people in parliament and women having come quite far in different areas of public life, and the same in cricket now. So it's now become part of cricket's policy that women are part of cricket. And why not? It's beautiful to see Shibnam, bowling fast and chucking the ball in from fine leg, looking like a cricketer in her body language. It's really, women play golf, they play tennis, they play hockey. Why not cricket? It's like really silly to even start to debate those things. And that's what is for me nice, that we actually now just talking about cricketers coming and to see them enjoy the game and learn the skills, I think is absolutely fantastic.
I was going to touch on the professionalism there, Prof. And at the moment, with CSA handing out national contracts to 6 of the players, it's obviously heading in a way, but we're very much far off where the other countries are at the moment. And now, with you mentioning the games back then, a bit of the history of women's cricket and where we're now, it's a massive jump on the growth of women's cricket. And I'm pretty sure, even within the structures within Western Province, with the school structure, I think you've got 34 schools playing cricket and the 16 clubs, we can build quite a big base. How proud will Western Province be of the numbers that they're offering to the national setup at the moment? 10 in the past month was selected in either the Proteas or the SA emerging side.
Well, I think that jump in numbers shows that we're taking the thing seriously and the whole system's working towards it. And to have won all 3 major trophies in South Africa, that to me is a real sign of good things. And if we can build on that and really just, see women as part of our mainstream, we really want to take the lead in South Africa. We're hell of a proud of Western Province and the Cobras, and in fact Boland as well, where we've won in 13 of the 15 national competitions above under 19. We've been winners in the last 3 years. And of course the Cobras 5 out of 9. So the women are showing that they also a mean machine. And I like the structure that's been created, the discipline, the pre-season camps. And if we can go through a few seasons where we're really setting the benchmark, that will be fantastic.
Now we have the Cobras having quite a bit of the core players of the national side. Our provincial ladies team having the core players of the senior side. It can only reflect well on the Western Province Cricket Association. And I must say it's proudly say today that we have grown, we've jumped, and we are heading in a direction that is only positive. And the fact that we've got such a strong youth structure, it will only bode well for the future.
I think that whole thing of incentives again, Clinton, we're trying to build centres of excellence because it's so difficult to sustain cricket at the grassroots and at club level. And if we can have in every municipal area and district of Cape Town strong clubs with all these multiple activities, including women's cricket, it's going to really create that community vibe around cricket that's important to keep the game going, where you have volunteers and people getting together, having fun and working hard. We've got to make sure we've got structures that can sustain themselves, because it's very difficult in terms of facilities, in terms of costs and so on. So I think we're on the right track in a whole lot of things.
Prof, let me put one more question to you before we wrap this up. The 6 contracts, and in fact Clinton alluded to them, the 6 contracts awarded by CSA, is for me a statement of intent. It says that we want to compete with, and you've mentioned them, the Australians, the English, the Indians, and we want to not compete, we want to beat them. How far away are we from that?
We're still very far away. I think, Claire and Lexi will be able to talk more about that. But it's simply because those cricketers are they're professionals basically, and they play like professionals. And we haven't reached that stage yet. And I think Cricket South Africa wants to start creating that structure, because we must be competitive at World Cups and so on. But of course, when India shorten the itinerary and it's a few $100 million less, it becomes, the argument says, where are we going to get the money from? But if you think positively about it, the rest is going to come.
Thanks very much, Professor Odendaal. Always good to have you on show, and certainly look forward to having you back in studio again as a guest later in the season. Of course, coming up in from the Clubhouse a bit later, we talk to Claire Cowan, the newly elected chairperson of the Province Cricket Association's Women's Cricket Committee. That's up next.